Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 8 of Lucha Rewatch Season 2. Today we're going to be covering Lucha Underground Season 2, episodes 15 and 16, No Mas and Graver Consequences.
Yes, dude, two exceptional matches for really two great episodes. I thoroughly enjoyed this batch that we're going to be covering today, but what did you think about it?
This was so good. These two episodes, man, like how lucky could we possibly get to cover these two episodes in one episode of Lucha Rewatch? Like, what are the odds?
I know, man. I really couldn't have asked for better for today's coverage. And with that said, I've got nothing more to say as far as preliminary remarks, so let's get right into this.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's just kind of dive right in because I believe we actually opened up our first episode here with Dario Cueto because if you remember correctly, last week we had the Mil Muertes versus Matanza match where they went through Dario Cueto's roof. So we kind of catch up on Cueto and he's checking up on his newly repaired ceiling. And then Katrina shows up and she talks about how, you know, the problem with Cueto is that he doesn't fear Mil, or that he does fear Mil, and that he might not realize how much he should because Mil is going to take Matanza's title away, and she's basically in there lobbying for a proper rematch because of the fact that the first match didn't really have a proper ending.
No, it did not. And Cueto, though, stands his ground. He says, look, I'm not afraid of Mil. Is Mil, intimidating? Yes. But Matanza is just like a force that's never been seen before. So he's saying, like, my monster is greater than your monster. And look, Mil's going to get his rematch, all right, next week. And to show you how not afraid I am, we're going to do it in his match. Grave Consequences. Except Dario has the idea, instead of 2 caskets, why not 4? Let's make it Graver Consequences. And Katrina actually gives Dario props somewhat, like, you're braver than you look. And she agrees, says, we accept. And this is how we lay the groundwork for Graver Consequences, which we will be discussing in episode 16 here in a little bit. But yeah, great opening cinematic to already set the tone for next week's show. I love that they waste no motion in, kind of laying a foundation and getting that hype going. It's great.
Yeah, guys. So the really cool thing, too, about this whole segment was I love that Cueto was just like, the power contained within that stone of yours is nowhere close to the power that is unlocked by this key. So it's like this cool moment where it's almost like, your ancient relic isn't as strong as my ancient relic. Suck it.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that too. It's like a dick measuring contest, except with like Aztec kind of magic or whatever. It's crazy, dude.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Wow. I'm just kind of paying half attention to chat, and we've got a full house already. We've got so many people in chat. I love how active it is. But getting back to Lucha Underground, man, we had sort of the dick measuring contest with the ancient Aztec relics. And then we get right into our first match of the night. And we did get like this big announcement that every match on this show would be for an ancient Aztec medallion. So match number 1 is Marty the Moth Martinez versus the Mac. And I don't even remember this match very well, but as soon as I saw Marty in the ring, I knew that the Mac was going to be his opponent because you could just feel that this whole Marty Mac Mariposa Sexy Star thing has not come to a proper finish yet. So we get Marty versus the Mac, and this is a fun match. I love that Mac is clearly pissed. He goes after Marty immediately, does a freaking tope suicida over the top rope before he even gets a chance to take his entrance jacket off.
Yeah, dude. I love it. Mac and Marty, I mean, they're two guys that I'm just so excited for their future. I won't be tight-lipped about that. I just think they're two incredible performers. And yeah, this is a fun match. Mac is really dominant though throughout, but Marty gets some great character bits, taking off his shirt and then he licks his fingers and he throws the shirt at Melissa Santos. And I like the guy, but even recounting it, my body tenses up, right? That's how you're doing quality character.
Anxious Aardvark.
Anxious Aardvark for the win, my friend. And I just love that the Mac, he's just this one cool ass motherfucker. He's got the Stone Cold vibe and everything. And I love the finish of this match. He gets a stunner on Marty, but Marty's still standing because he's just almost got this imperviousness to pain to a degree, which reminds me also earlier in the match when the Mac hit a German and Marty is just kind of smiling and laughing about it. I love that aspect of his character, that his pain tolerance is just so high.
I feel like the only time that Anxious Aardvark is acceptable and almost even a good thing is when it's a reaction to a bad guy who's supposed to be over the top creepy.
Exactly. I love that Marty's pain threshold is so high, but then, Mac follows it up with a fireman's carry, kind of airplane spin into a stunner, which I thought was really cool. Flips off, adversity and gets the 3 count for an Aztec medallion. Very cool to see that Mac is going to be competing for Gift of the Gods.
Oh, yeah. Mac is great. And I love, between this match and then his appearance later on in the night, they really are giving him this portrayal as, not just another undercard guy. They're really kind of and building him up as somebody who could be a legit main eventer. And we're in season 3 now, and we're kind of seeing that come to pass a little bit more, but I won't give too much away. But yeah, the Mac definitely gets his fair shot in season 3.
Absolutely. And with that said, do you have anything else you want to say about this match?
Up next, we had a confrontation. Katrina going up to King Cuerno in the locker room and telling him straight up that, hey, tonight, Mil Muertes gets his championship back, and you aren't going to be trusted with the Gift of the Gods. My disciple, Siniestro, will be.
Yes, and, Cuerno doesn't really seem too perturbed by this. He's just like, hey, look, I'm going to get that Aztec medallion, and when I win Gift of the Gods again, I'm not going to make the mistake that I did last time, by going easy on Mil Muertes. I'm coming for him, and his carcass will be the most prized possession in my trophy room because the hunt
is on.
So, great cinematic. Fucking love Cuerno. And we even have more to say about him, in this episode and the next. But I'm not going to get too ahead of myself. Partner, do you have anything else you want to say about the cinematic?
No, I just love Cuerno. I love how intense he is. I love that, that moment where you realize, oh, wait, this is officially King Cuerno turning into a good guy. It's just a cool moment, man. It's awesome.
It really is. I freaking love it, dude.
So then we see really one of the most interesting and kind of, I guess, revealing scenes in Lucha Underground history, I would say. Cueto is in his office and Sexy Star shows up. And he says, Sexy Star, whether you believe it or not, I do respect you. And I know that something very bad has happened to you. I can see it in your eyes. You kind of remind me of the way I used to be, because, we then get the story of Cueto's mother and how he and Matanza were captives to her sick, twisted desires, and that the only way that they stopped her from torturing them was to stand up and say no more. So whatever Mariposa did to Sexy Star, tonight Sexy Star will be the one to say no more, because Cueto is going to give her the chance to not only win a medallion, but to make Mariposa pay, and pay dearly. He's given her a no mas match tonight, and he also goes as far as to say, once you make her cry out no mas, once the match is over, don't stop. If you ever want that look in your eyes to go away, you have to put that same look of pure terror in her eyes. Trust me, it works.
This is actually one of my favorite cinematics in LU history. And I think it's because we see two people that normally have been antagonistic to each other and will be antagonistic to each other just after this because their dispositions are just so contrary to one another.
Yeah.
But in this moment, they have
bonding.
they're bonding, and they have this mutual ground of understanding. Now, let me just say this. Is there anything manipulative in Cueto's presentation? Oh, I'm sure there is, because the man loves violence, and he wants to stoke those flames.
Exactly.
But,
like, whether he genuinely means what he's saying to Sexy Star or not, the purpose of this pep talk is to make their match as violent as possible.
But at the same time, is there a humanity here on Cueto's side? I would like to believe there is. You know, I would like.
I mean, you can believe there is, but there isn't. Like, it's not necessarily like that. It definitely could be. It definitely could be a shred of humanity coming out in Cueto here, but it could also just be him pretending to empathize with Sexy Star for the sake of violence.
Certainly. And again, I am not discounting that possibility at all. But again, that's why I love this cinematic so much. Because is it Cueto being Cueto? Oh, absolutely. But is there potential that there's something deeper going on here of Cueto relating to another human being that isn't in his, you know, cloistered little circle? I'd like to think so. And it's on a ground that he knows so well, in trauma and violence and all of that stuff. And yet there's just something really poignant, I think, about this cinematic that I just resonate with even watching it again. And you see like the eye contact and everything, and you know, Sexy doesn't make any threats and Dario doesn't puff his chest out. It really is just that conversation of, I know something happened to you, and while I'm certainly going to wield it to my benefit, I'm going to tell you how to make those demons go away. And just, yeah, something very powerful in that. So I thoroughly enjoyed this.
Yeah, so, and I do love, too, that it is kind of open to interpretation, because whether you want to believe that Cueto felt genuine empathy here, or if you just believe, like I do, that this was him faking feelings to manipulate the situation to increase the maximum possible amount of violence in his favor, you know, it is open to interpretation. It depends on kind of what you think Dario Cueto's motivations are and how sort of vulnerable you think he's willing to be. And I don't think he's willing to be genuinely vulnerable at all. So I think this was all just him putting on a charade for the sake of violence.
And see, and again, I can certainly be sympathetic to that viewpoint, but I even think about the moment he had with Black Lotus, and it's just very telling, like, who he decides to let his guard down with and let in. And really, he could have even spared Sexy Star the details of, like, his own personal upbringing, and I think still achieved the same effect another way. But the idea that he let her see that, I think, is very telling. Again, I still think the Cueto character is a scumbag and a real dirtbag at times. But what I love about Lucha Underground is, even with the most nefarious characters, I think there's always a humanity there. It's never black and white. Lucha Underground loves to play in the gray. And I think Dario Cueto is one of the biggest testaments to that. So, yeah, again, really love this cinematic.
Absolutely. All right. So we get this awesome cinematic. And I mean, you and I, honestly, we said it in different ways, but we kind of agree that this is one of the best cinematics in Lucha Underground history, which I'm glad we're rewatching this, because honestly, on the grand scheme of things, I don't really think of this in like that conversation with best cinematics ever. Like, I think of, you know, Cage. I think it was Cage. Yeah, Cage beating the shit out of the Mac when he was about to be in that trio with Daivari and Big Rick, or was it Big Rick? I don't remember. But that cinematic, and then the first ever confrontation between Killshot and Marty the Moth, which I think we still haven't even seen yet in season 2, but we will very soon. And, you know, like, those are the kind of cinematics that I think of when I think of the best cinematics of all time. Or like Siniestro ripping the hearts out of Trece and Barrio Negro, which we just saw in one of our episodes last week. So those are what I normally think of, not something that's more grounded and emotional in Dario Cueto's office here. So I'm really glad we're doing this rewatch. I'm always glad about it, but I'm even more glad about it this week, because it kind of shone a light on a really underrated segment in the annals of Lucha Underground history.
Certainly. So what came after this?
Match number 2, Siniestro de la Muerte versus King Cuerno. And man, this is about what you expect at this point from a match involving a Disciples of Death. Like, he got dominated until Katrina stepped in, and then he won.
That's pretty much the review in a nutshell. I mean, Cuerno was kind of handing Sinestro his ass, and then he goes for the arrow of death, and he gets hit with the stone by Katrina, but then Sinestro does like this springboard guillotine leg drop on the back of the head.
Basically a famouser.
Exactly, yeah. And hooks the leg, gets a 3 count, gets the medallion, and then Katrina does the lick of death and hits Cuerno with the stone. So, you know, Katrina picking a fight with Cuerno. He gets screwed out of an Aztec medallion. And, yeah, I guess the hunt really is on at this point. So not really much to say about the match. That was the match. So unless there's anything else you want to say, we can move on.
Yeah, that really, it's kind of ridiculous because further emphasizing the point that the disciples are pretty much just jobbers who are lucky enough to have Katrina watching their back. It's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So then we get another cinematic, Mascarita Sagrada lifting weights, doing them curls, working them biceps, and then Famous B shows up. And Famous B tells Mascarita that he set up the match of the century for him, and that the opponent already had an Aztec medallion, but he was willing to put the medallion on the line. And then he finishes with a great line, "Stop stalling, start ballin'."
I love Famous B so much, man.
He's so good. Like, it's crazy because Famous B is the kind of asset that I do honestly feel like the WWE would just salivate at the chance to have. Because, like, you don't even really have to look back that far to remember the last great heel manager. Ricardo Rodriguez was super over, and he really didn't even do that much. Like, he wasn't exactly the most charismatic guy in the world, but you take a guy like Famous B, who is charismatic, who comes up with great material, who can actually take bumps and be an in-ring performer if necessary, and, like, he is the dream heel manager. He's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he is just a great asset to Lucha Underground. And really, what did I used to say? I haven't said it so much in recent years, to be fair. But what was one of my biggest criticisms of WWE? I missed the manager. There is nothing to me like a quality manager or valet. And I think Famous B on Lucha Underground side was really kind of the catalyst for that art. Because, yeah, we've had, like, Katrina, and you could certainly throw her in the conversation. I would. But Famous B, like you said, he's just so well-rounded with the charisma, and he can get in ring, which we really haven't seen from Katrina yet. So he's got, like, all these dimensions, checking off all these boxes. And, yeah, I love it. Stop stalling, start balling. So good. They leave to get ready for their match. And then do we segue right into that? What was it, Masquerade's match up next?
No, up next we had Chavo showing up in Dario Cueto's office asking why he doesn't have a match for a medallion tonight.
Oh,
and
my
Cueto
God.
pretty much firing back with, you don't deserve one. You don't step up. You don't seize opportunities. You're basically a loser.
You know what I love most about the cinematic, besides the insults, because I love laughing at other people's failures, is that Cueto, when he initially tells Chavo you don't deserve one, he doesn't even afford Chavo the basic dignity of looking up from his paperwork. Did you notice that? He's just looking right in his papers like, oh, you don't deserve one. Like, oh, God, Chavo, this is still more important than you, so I'm going to, multitask. And then, he finally does look at Chavo, but I just love at the beginning, he just doesn't even afford him the courtesy of that eye contact because he's so worthless. This was great.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. Freaking Chavo, man. And you know what? I say freaking Chavo, but freaking Cueto, man. Like, how blunt can one man be? I love it. So then we get into our third match, and we do get Mascarita versus Cage for Cage's medallion. And it was great because Famous B did Mascarita's intro. He, of course, cut Melissa off. Was this the first time that we saw Famous B cut Melissa off while she was in the middle of an intro?
Yes, this was the first time.
Yeah, and it was great because, he talked about now from Little Hollywood, talking about Mascarita. So yeah, Mascarita comes down, and then when Cage, when we hear from the 559, you just see Mascarita drop down to his knees and literally start praying.
Yeah, he was doing push-ups while Cage was making his entrance. I thought that was fucking hilarious. I'm like, oh, look at him. He still thinks he can do this. Yeah, not much to say about the match. It was pure comedy, which, it succeeded. I smiled like an idiot. But, Cage did end up catching Masquerada, does an F5, and yeah, that's pretty much the win. He retains his Aztec medallion. The best part about this match, though, was the post-match, because Chavo sneaks up. He steals Cage's medallion, and Cage, being a complete meathead, when Famous B is like, you got robbed. And he's like, what are you talking about? I won the match. No, you got robbed.
And then he points at Chavo, and he's just like, no! No! He was just like, Chavo!
Yeah. You know, if Cage is a machine, he clearly was a Windows Vista in that moment because, my God, was he slow as fuck. But, yeah, Cage gets the win. He retains his Aztec medallion, but it might just be a moot point given Chavo's thievery. Do you have anything you want to say about this match?
Yeah. For the finish of the match, I love that, like, Cage catches Mascarita and Mascarita goes for a crossbody. And then Cage, while holding Mascarita, looks at the camera and says, I'm sorry, it's his fault, and gestures over to Famous B.
Yeah.
And that was right before killing Mascarita with an F5. Like, that wasn't an F5. That was easily an F10. That was a ridiculous F5. Like, normally, when you toss someone in an F5, you expect them to land after just kind of rotating a little bit, but Mascarita did like 3 flips in the air before he landed.
Oh, he got destroyed. And then Famous B is just like, oh, don't worry. We'll get him next time. We'll get him next time. And to the uninitiated, you know, the question has to be asked, will Famous B and Mascarita get on track? Will this client be the most successful in wrestling history? Stay tuned. But yeah, I've said all I can about this match for now. Unless you have any other comments you want to make, we can move on.
Yeah, just between the I'm sorry, it's his fault line, and then the whole you got robbed thing, like, this was a great comedy segment. And really, looking back, I just kind of want to see everybody that gets screwed over by Chavo do the Chavo!
Chavo!
I just imagine when Chavo first attacks Blue Demon Jr. and then hits Sexy Star in the head, like, as he's hitting Sexy Star in the head, you just see Blue Demon on the outside, Chavo! And then, like, when he joins up with the crew and he attacks Black Lotus, you just see Black Lotus locked in the cage next to Matanza, Chavo! I want it to be a thing so bad.
Yeah, it should be. It'd be the best thing to happen to his heel character in LU, so we'll see.
All right. But hey, the thing is, once Cage starts chasing Chavo, we transition right into our main event match, not even segment match, which was the No Mas match, Sexy Star Mariposa. And you know, it's not really something that I thought about on the night that we saw it, because the way that Lucha Underground portrays their women, I don't really think of it as a women's division. But that being said, Mariposa versus Sexy Star is a women's match, as much as I prefer to avoid that kind of labeling system. And based on that, I can say that it is probably one of, if not my favorite women's match of all time.
Oh, yeah. I think this is insanely good. But you know what, though, partner? Because you've always been high on this match, and certainly higher on this match than I am, I want you to take the reins on this. Talk about why you love this match, some of your favorite moments. Just take us through it, man.
Do you want me to just read my notes on this?
Certainly.
Actually, before the match itself even starts, I love what commentary set up to make this match seem like the biggest of deals. Because as the match is about to get underway, Vamp says, this is the one match type that I think that I've always managed to avoid is in as long a wrestling career as I've had. And Matt Stryker says, oh yeah, why do you think that is? And without hesitation, Vampiro says, fear. And then Stryker says, oh, you afraid you wouldn't be able to give up? And then Vamp says, I think I would rather die.
Yeah, I love that, dude.
Like, I have goosebumps just right now just talking about that line. Like, that to me makes I Quit matches feel so much more real and like haunting. You know what I mean? Like, that's really, that's so heavy to me. But the match itself, I'll read my notes. Of course, this match was awesome. From the cunt punt with the chair to the balcony brawl to Mac having to cancel out Marty to fuck you, Mariposa, to Sexy winning. Everything about this match was great. But the one thing that I am not really super fond of is how quickly Mariposa gave up once Sexy Star got her in that arm breaker. But I mean, I guess it does make sense because you don't want to have a broken arm, but still, I feel like Mariposa got done a little bit dirty there.
I think that's always been my biggest hang up with this match, and I'm glad you brought that up. Even if Sexy Star wanted to do like a chair assisted arm breaker, I could have bought that more than just a standard arm submission after everything these two did to each other. That said, though, I think your whole analysis was on point. And I love that you brought up the commentary bit, because I think why that resonated with me was, think about whose mouth that came out of, Vampiro, who, you know, with his career has always done crazy stuff. Hell, in LU, Season 1, the very first Ultima Lucha, Cero Miedo against Pentagon. And yet he feels like a no mas match, like he'd rather die than say no mas, and like he would have fear of doing one. That speaks volumes.
Well, yeah, because it's like he's more willing to get pinned for a 3 count than admit defeat and quit.
Yeah, exactly. It just, to me, so well done. Great table setting. I love just the emotion and really the imagery of Sexy Star having a crimson mask on top of her actual mask, which was torn a bit by Mariposa. So I love, again, the psychological warfare on that front. I feel like that tactic actually carries more weight given the story we're dealing with here. Yeah, the fuck you, Mariposa, just a highlight, I think, in the LU lore, that Sexy just, fights that hard.
I mean, yeah, to me, that's like one of like the top 5 Lucha Underground moments of all time. Like I think we're like 84 or 85 episodes into this show as a whole. And that moment right there cracks at least my top 10, if not my top 5 all time.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. And my thing is, this is the one time that Johnny Scumbag kind of, let his walls down, had his soft side, because just that post-match of just Sexy looking out at those glazed eyes and like, I won, and like the bloody face and her.
And then like the realization that washes over her when Mac hands her the medallion, and she's like, oh my God, like that war that I was just in, I was just doing that for revenge, but I get this too?
Yeah. And then she hugs Mac, and I mean, yeah, I know, and we'll talk about him a bit later because we talked about it before we went live, but I feel like even Stryker had a good line here that wasn't pouring it on too thick, at least for me. Never question what you can do. And I love, too, that the show goes off the air as we hear the "You Deserve It" chants. I just thought the whole post-match atmosphere was perfect. And yeah, great moment for Lucha Underground, and great match on the whole.
Yeah, this was just an awesome match from beginning to end, really. The way that they kind of started out and worked their way to the outside, and then, Sexy Star taking it to the next level, kicking that chair between Mariposa's legs, and then, working their way up the temple steps and finding their way up all the way up on the balcony, and like the 3 different teases. And Mariposa just dropping Sexy Star off the balcony, and then Sexy Star realizing that she was in trouble and having to get down, and then she gets down only to meet Marty, and then Max shows up to cancel Marty out, and like, yeah, the storytelling in this match was next level. I love this match so much.
Couldn't have said it better, my friend. I've got nothing else saying. I know we had no post like episode cinematic, so we can get right into episode 16.
And episode 16, obviously the recap. But then, really, again, one of the better cinematics that I can remember, Cueto showing up at this bar with Delgado, and Delgado's like, oh, you're late. And Cueto's just like, have you ever run an underground fight club? It's exhausting. And then Delgado's like, have you ever run a city? And Cueto's just like, oh, touche. So that was cool. Delgado brings up his employer, and Cueto says that he's at Delgado's employer's service, which is interesting. And then Delgado tells Cueto, oh, you're getting sloppy. There's a police investigation going on you, and for all I know, they could already have an insider in the temple, and you wouldn't even know it. And then he reminds Cueto that the temple is very important to his employer, and when his ascension is complete, he's going to come by to personally see the temple. And he's been waiting for a very long time. And then, of course, Cueto kind of gives him this odd look, and he just goes, what, did you think your brother was going to get to have all the fun? Drink up.
Dude, I love that Delgado just kind of just cock slaps Dario here. Just like reminds him of his place, pisses on him a little. So, he'll have a whiskey, thanks. And then the drink up. And I love, as good as the councilman is here, and he's fantastic. Cueto to me really makes this cinematic, because here is a guy, right? And we've talked about this dichotomy before, you and I, in formal LU reviews. At the temple and in his office, he gives off this air of, oh yeah, like, I'm confident, I run this shit, ain't nobody messing with me. And yet when the councilman says that the Lord is going to be paying a visit to the temple, Cueto says, like, he gets this look in his eyes and his voice kind of cracks a little bit, like, the Lord, he's coming here? Like, that, just that surprise and that tinge of fear, I think, is perfect. And that's all you need to hear from a guy whose image is everything to him and needs to exude this air of just confidence and power. Showing that fear without even thinking about it, I think, is everything you need to know about the Lord. I love it. So good.
Yeah. This segment was so, I want to say, revelatory. Because you kind of realize, like, not only are Cueto and Delgado kind of in on it, like they're in on something, I don't know what, but it's something, and they're working together, but they have a higher power, in a sense, who kind of oversees everything, and said, quote-unquote, higher power is going to end up coming to the temple eventually. That, to me, is the big deal here.
And we've already know, like, your sentiments on it a few episodes back in Rewatch, and even for those really initiated on several LU reviews, that you believe the Lord and the higher power is Dario Cueto's father. So sooner or later, we're going to have to see him, and all truths will be revealed in due time. But for now, this cinematic was fantastic.
Yeah. Also, kind of does play into my theory that it's Papa Cueto.
Yes, and we will see if that comes true or not. And in the meantime, I got nothing more to say, though, so we can move on.
All right, up next, we got our first match of the night, and yeah, this happened. Joey Ryan versus Mr. Cisco versus Cortez Castro, triple threat. And I think this was for a medallion.
Yeah, like one of the quickest triple threats in history. I honestly don't even really remember much about this to talk about, except the finish of Joey Ryan rolling up Cortez Castro and grabbing the tights. And he's like, what the fuck? Like, he mouthed, what the fuck, after the finish. So, yeah, Joey Ryan gets an Aztec medallion. It's one of those blink and you miss it kind of things. Crazy that Joey Ryan, again, who he may be a sleazebag, he may excessively use baby oil, but he's the smartest son of a bitch in the ring, apparently, because he won with the least expenditure of effort. So, great stuff here for Joey Ryan. He gets an Aztec medallion, and he moves on.
Yeah, so sleazy Joey Ryan at it again, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so then, man, it's so weird because these two episodes we got, including the one that we're about to talk about, 3 awesome cinematics and at least 2 awesome matches. Man, like, Lucha Underground spoils us. It's funny, though, because, like, I feel like people were kind of down on season 2. Like, there were people that were complaining about things in season 2 and, you know, talking about how, Lucha Underground isn't as good as it was in season 1 anymore. But damn, these 2 episodes were so good.
They really were, dude. Like I'll even say that season 2 on the whole, was it as good as season 1? It's up for debate, but that didn't mean that there weren't any gems in here, because there were plenty to go around for sure. So.
Yeah. So, Katrina, this is the segment that I wanted to was talking about. Katrina says to Mill, and this was like a huge moment because this was like the big reveal. We finally know what's going on with Katrina. She's super old, and she says, I've been waiting for this moment 197 years. And that's a long time to be a prisoner of darkness. So, yeah, it is. Like, my question, though, how much of her life has those 197 years been? Like, because if she is, you know, she could be 197 years old and be exaggerating, even though she hasn't really been waiting her whole life. It could just be her, you know, how like everyone that gets into a profession that they love always says, I've been wanting to do this since I was born, even though it's not really true. Like, maybe that's what Katrina did here, and she's 197 years old. Or maybe she's like 220 years old and she's been waiting for this since she turned 23. Or maybe she's like 1,300 years old and this is just a tiny little segment of her life, but it's still a long-ass time.
Yeah, I even tweeted at Carly, who plays Katrina, like, damn, for 197 years, you still, pretty much look fine. I use different words, but yeah, I pretty much said, yeah, you do you look good. But yeah, when I heard that, I'm like, oh, okay, and yeah, like, this is a big piece of the puzzle here, man. I agree with you. Like, this cinematic. And you know what I love too? Like, she just kind of casually drops that in, like just matter of factly says, "Oh, I've been waiting this 197 years," to the point where you almost have to double check. Like, yeah, me too. Wait, what? And yeah, then she just explains to Mill, again about finding him as a boy, and just like the first time he lost grave consequences, he was wandering in the underworld until she brought him back, but not tonight. Tonight, you're more powerful than ever, and you've got to take care of Matanza. You close the casket on him, and yeah, Katrina just saying, bring it home, more or less, and Mill gets himself pumped. But I gotta tell you, man, this dynamic, ever since season 1, it's a dynamic that continues to enthrall me, because we both agree by now, it's consensus here at TWitWoW that Katrina is the leader, the puppet master, but I still say with Mill, even with his tendency to be a bit aggressive at times with Katrina, that there is a tragic element to the Mil Muertes character, because, again, as she herself has pointed out, and as part of his mythos, he was a boy when she found her. And not only that, he was a boy with significant psychological trauma, losing his parents in an earthquake. So you figure, like, he's got all that going for him. Children are already naturally impressionable. Yeah, the psychological trauma on top of that, and you're incredibly malleable to anybody's whims and will. And then a dark entity like Katrina comes into the picture. Like, to me, Mill is a walking tragedy, and I think, again, that kind of shows itself here, because she's kind of just telling him, no, you need to do this. And, like, yeah, they're on the same team and everything, but you can definitely see her exerting that power in this cinematic, and I just will always find that fascinating. So, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you say she looks good for 197. I'm going to go ahead and say, like, if I had to make a list of the most attractive women in wrestling, she would easily make my top 5, if not top 3. She is up there.
Yeah, brother. Cannot blame you for that at all.
It'd be like her. I think Melissa would probably be on there. Toni Storm would be on there. Like, it's a pretty exclusive list. And Katrina, yeah, she's got it. So anyway, up next, we had our second match of the night, and this was a trios match, and I believe it was a trios championship match. Oh, actually, before we even talk about that, we got to finish talking about this whole Katrina Mill thing. She tells him about how, when he was a boy, he only spent days in his mausoleum of stone and rubble before she guided him to safety. And then as a man, he spent weeks roaming the underworld until she freed him from death's grip and made him more powerful than ever. Locking him in that coffin and bringing him back from the dead was all a part of her plan, but not tonight. Tonight, he brings Matanza to his knees and breaks every bone in his body. And before he closes the lid on that coffin, she wants him to watch her lick the face of a god and make them immortal. And then it was also revealed that Cuerno was hiding behind the shrine listening to the whole thing.
Yeah, love this. So good. I mean, if that doesn't get you fired up to, like, fucking conquer some shit, I don't know what does. Great cinematic, and I got nothing else to say, so we can move on.
Yeah. So now we can talk about this trios match. The Lucha Trinity, Prince Puma Rey Mysterio Jr. and Azteca Jr. versus Son of Havoc, Ivelisse, and the Angelico sub, Johnny Mundo.
You know what I hate, Ashton? I hate really stupid fucking people. And there might not be a more stupid human being than Ivelisse in this match. You had one fucking job. One. Outside of not getting injured. And that was just to toe the line. Okay? Just follow Johnny Mundo, follow Taya, and you'll be a 3-time trios champion. It's really not that difficult. And yet, somehow, we ended up bungling that all up now, didn't we? But no, instead, we focus more on, that sportsmanship and that respect. Yeah, it's what I think about that. Yeah, what do I think about this match? It was a good match, obviously, because Johnny Mundo's in it. And, you've got 6 great luchadors and luchadoras. Just the problem is that the Lucha Trinity has all this synergy going on and amazing teamwork, and yet Ivelisse and Son of Havoc can't get out of their own way and see the magnificence of Johnny Mundo guiding them to championship gold. So in the end, Son of Havoc ends up eating a freaking 630, and yeah, Lucha Trinity freaking retains, and Ivelisse is just like, oh, well, yeah, whatever, even though it was clearly her fault, and it was bad, and she should feel bad. But thankfully, I had the smile return to my face because Taya just beat the ever-loving shit out of Ivelisse post-match, and she re-educated her on the very nature of her place. That's pretty much my review. What do you have to say about this match?
You pretty much hit the nail on the head. Ivelisse, I love Ivelisse so much as a performer, but this as a character, this was bad.
Yeah, I mean, we don't do things that way when Ivelisse, I think, not Ivelisse, when Taya was beating up, I think, either Puma or Ray. And, we don't do things that way. And then though, you decide to get on board a little too late when you trip up Rey Mysterio going for the 619 on Son of Havoc, which that would have been nice, from the beginning of the fucking match. And then Johnny Mundo, rightfully incredulous, mind you, why aren't you tagging me in? Why aren't I getting tagged when I'm clearly better than the both of you? It just, this is why Taiwan Mundo does not put up with other people's shit. Because we're better than everyone else, and it's just a headache. So, yeah, I was so glad that this ended.
Oh, my God.
I'm sorry for spewing facts. I'm so glad that's so hilarious.
Hey, no one ever said you needed to apologize, man. I just think it's hilarious when you go off on these ridiculous rants.
Because it's ridiculous what I have to deal with. I mean, look at this puddle that Ivelisse created. Clean that shit up. But, at least Taya did because she's the perfect woman. But yeah, good match. And really, getting back on a more serious note, given what you and I know, this was a great narrative bit for what was to come. And I can't wait to talk about that later in the season. But we can't right now, so I'll restrain myself and just tell Ivelisse one more time it was all your fault. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, well, I love you, Ivelisse, but you messed up here. So, yeah, Johnny Mundo, I mean, he ended up kicking Ivelisse in the head. Did that make you feel good?
I mean, she totally deserved it, and even if people are like, well, that's wrong, I would personally like to think it made up for all the times that she should have been flash kicked in the face. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that was nice. But really, and Mundo even seemed a bit stunned because clearly it wasn't going for her. But I don't even blame Mundo as much as I blame Ivelisse. Like, why even be in the vicinity of Johnny Mundo's greatness when you know that you're just going to be a casualty? Like, stay on the floor and maybe be a secondary valet, because that's pretty much all you did this entire match anyway. You freaking scrub. All right, I think I've gotten all the visceralness out of my system. We can move on.
We've actually, someone in chat, it looks like, who was it? Stella is saying that the Lucha Trinity has God on their team, and apparently Puma is God. And you know what? I approve.
You approve, and it's cool for Stella to be wrong. I mean, we do live in an age of alternative facts and all. And then to Jarveris, man, fuck Mundo in this episode. Jarveris, how about fuck your face for making that insult? Mundo is God. He is the real God here, and it will not be questioned. Even though I'm being the very same thing that I was just criticizing a few seconds ago, blow me. And now we can move on.
Okay. Up next, we had our third and final match of the night. Oh, and by the way, I also wanted to acknowledge Matt Stryker because he was way over the top and cringy at like the very end of this match. Basically, when Rey Mysterio hits the 619 and then Son of Havoc magically lands in perfect position for a 630 and Rey tags Puma, Stryker freaks the hell out, talking about how, as if Rey Mysterio is passing the torch, a star is created. And all I could think was, dude, chill the hell out. Stars get created over time, not in one single instance.
Yeah. And, again, like you and I were talking about in conversation, I can appreciate what Stryker was trying to do, given what you and I know is to come. But I feel like he could have done it a different way. Because, to say that a star is born when that guy that you're referring to was your first ever Lucha Underground champion, and again, like, all kidding aside, because I love to have fun, Puma is one of the best performers in Lucha Underground, and a lot of people would say the best, and honestly, there's a lot of ground for that claim. So why would you say about that guy that a star is born? It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah. So up next, we did have our main event of the evening, Mil Muertes versus Matanza, Graver Consequences.
And I'm going to reiterate what I said to you in conversation before we went live. I think I like this match more on the rewatch, knowing that we're going to cover it again, than in the initial viewing. Like, these guys went out there and they did everything. They're two big behemoths with the athleticism to boot. I mean, dude, in like the first minute of this match, there's like this exchange of like an Irish whip, Matanza to Mill. And Mill, I think, tries to, like, vault over. You know how, like, cruiserweights do when they're in the corner and they, like, lift their legs up. But Matanza stops. He intercepts Mill, and he German suplexes him. And already that sets the tone, like, yeah, it's just going to be dropping bombs for close to 20 minutes. And, yeah, these guys fucking killed it. I love the power offense. We got a flatliner on a casket at one point. That was cool as hell. This match did have one of your favorite spots where Mill punched through the coffin with the mesh covering, over his arm. I mean, these guys did everything. Mill undid one of the turnbuckle holdings, and he took it, and he, like, stabbed Mill in the head.
Early on in the match, too. They did not have a bottom rope for a good majority of this match.
Dude, I love that there was no wasted motion in this match. Like, again, in the first minute, German suplex from Matanza to Mill. And it's just an amazing freaking visual because it's Mil fucking Muertes. And yeah, you've got the shenanigans with Cueto and Katrina, and it just works, man. It just works. Like, this match has one pace, and I feel like even when they did slow down, it was to do something important. Like, for example, one of the most pivotal moments of the match, when Mill is trying to get a casket in the ring, so there's not really action going on, turns out on the other side, Matanza is disposing of Katrina getting her in a casket. So, like, I feel like this match was always doing something. I love the effort of both of these guys, and I thought the finish was perfection with Wrath of the Gods into the casket. I mean, just so good from both of these guys. What did you think about this match, watching it again, knowing that we're going to talk about it?
Honestly, the spot that I enjoyed that I completely forgot even happened was the flatliner onto the three caskets at once.
Yeah, that was great.
That was sick. I completely forgot about that. And then, of course, you have the involvement of the managers with, Cueto trying to, get after Mill, and then Matanza coming in for the save, and then Katrina literally attacking Cueto and then trying to go after Matanza, and then putting her in a coffin. And then, of course, at the end of the match, we see the coffin open up and she's out of it because she freaking teleported before it got a chance to close on her.
Yeah, I love it, dude. So good. And yeah, Jarveris said, this is my favorite Haas match. I think it was my second favorite, but it turns out my favorite is actually still in LU. It's just we can't talk about it. But yeah, this is up there for me.
We can't talk about it yet, but it is in season 2, if I remember correctly.
It should be, yes. And I'm excited because that's my favorite Haas fight for sure. But this, I think, is an immediate number 2 for me, Ashton. Like, I just love what these guys did. And again, Lucha Underground continues to make
I'm not even sure if I would say I prefer that to this. Because if that's what I'm thinking, it's the Gift of the Gods cash in after the big feud over the title, right?
Yeah, that's my favorite one because I just feel like, just great energy and everything.
That was an awesome freaking match, but I don't know if I would put that above this. This might be my number one house fight.
And dude, again, like you and Jarvis would be in the same boat, and I can't hold that against you guys. These guys killed it. I mean, in more ways than one. But yeah, they owned it. It was fantastic. And again, Lucha Underground, to me, making me interested in the casket match, which in WWE, if I'm being honest, now I never saw the early ones, and maybe I did myself a disservice, but the ones that I have seen, they were all right. These, I'm like, oh yeah, somebody gonna die.
Yeah.
It's a good time. It's a good time, man. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. Man, this was so good. The usage of the coffins, not only as a match ending kind of like suspense creator where, you know, like you get the guy in the coffin and then there's the struggle to close the lid and that kind of stuff, but also just as a weapon, I thought was great.
Yeah, dude, absolutely.
I feel like Mill, like the reason that this match is Mill's signature isn't because he's super successful in it. It's just because nobody really knows how to work this kind of match better than Mill.
You're right. Absolutely. Because
like the way that he like knows what to do with those coffins and how he, you know, he knows to take off the bottom rope because it makes it easier to bring a coffin in and out of the ring because then you don't have to make sure that you get it in between the ropes or anything. Like, that's just like next level planning and strategy. I love it.
You know what I think I love about LU Casket, and it just clicked for me while you were talking, you know, besides everything. I love, because I feel like with WWE, again, and this is only for the casket matches that I've seen, and I just want to make that perfectly clear, I feel like they're overly reliant on teases. Like, oh, the casket's open, is he going to go in there? And they do, like, a lot of teases. Lucha Underground, you don't see that until the very tail end of the match.
Yeah, I think there were, like, a grand total of 3 teases in this match, and 2 of those 3 happened in, like, the closing, like, 2 minutes of the match.
Exactly. I feel like they're well spaced out. You know, they're not excessive or anything, and they carry with them like a sense of purpose. And yeah, you're right about what you said about Mill. He just gets this match. Again, that one sequence where he has his foot out originally, and it seems like, oh, is Matanza going to win it? Like, that builds legitimate tension. And then when you really feel like he's got it, Mill punches through the casket. Like, just so good. I mean, hell, Matanza chokeslam Mill on a casket. So yeah, the idea too that the casket isn't just like meant to seal a soul and win a match, but it's a weapon just as much as anything else. I love that too. I just love grave and now graver consequences. Just great stuff, man.
Yeah. Beautiful thing though, even at the end of this match, we're still getting new awesome stuff because even though Mill was locked in the coffin, his story is far from over because we see leaving the ringside area, we see the coffin with Mill in it being carried out, and then one of the sort of pallbearers unveils himself to be King Cuerno.
Yes, what a great reveal. And Stryker was shocked, and I'm just like, oh, God, I love Cuerno so much.
And I love, too, that the crowd didn't even really react to it because they couldn't see him because he was in a tunnel.
Yes.
That was a really cool moment to me. Like, they could have, if they wanted to get, like, a big pop and kind of been, like, a little bit more over the top with it, they could have had him do that right outside the tunnel entrance. But they had him go in the tunnel and then do the reveal, and it was such a cool moment to me.
I completely agree with you, dude. And again, even with the post-match, so many matches on Lucha Underground, just perfect cherry on top, and this was no exception. And the thing is, the episode doesn't even end here, because we close with a cinematic, the Councilman Delgado meeting with the Lord. And, oh my God, I still remember our live reaction to this. We were freaking out over the one little clue that we were given about the Lord's identity. What'd you think about this cinematic, Ashton?
Was said clue the cigar, or
yeah, the black glove and the cigar being lit?
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, there was a $50,000 exchange here that went down about as casually as you would expect, like a minor marijuana sale to be.
I know, right? Oh man, and I love too how when the councilman is getting ready to get in the limo, he's like, "Oh, how is he?" And the guy tells him, "Well, it depends on what you tell him." And he explains his meeting with Cueto, and he says, Cueto may be starting to think that his brother is the most powerful, person, but I told him that that's not true because that's you, my lord. And the way he says my lord and the look on his face, like it's a combination.
Horrified.
It's horrifying. It's like a horrific kind of reverence, I would call it. Like he's horrified, but also nightmarishly awed at the sight before him. And I feel like that works on so many levels. So great body language here from the councilman.
Yeah, so freaking Councilman Delgado. I mean, it's really interesting because he's got this really confident, almost arrogant vibe anywhere else. But as soon as he sits in that limo and he's confronted with the presence of that lord, he becomes a coward.
I love it, though. The same way I said earlier with the bar scene, how Cueto having that tinge of fear, he's coming here. Like, it works because these guys, and you make a great point about the councilman, Ashton, because he's just like Dario, albeit in a different vein, but they have the same properties of, oh, yeah, when we're doing business, we're the cocks of the walk, like, we run this shit, nobody can touch us, and yet they're humbled even by the name of the Lord. And that just shows you, like, how big and how bad he really is. And I can't wait for more clues and more teases because, yeah, this is still the one narrative that I think about. And I'm like, where is this going to go? And again, we already know where your chips are. And I feel like I have, like, kind of reluctantly kind of put them there with you because it's as good a guess as anything else. And, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see in due time. But this is a great closer for episode 16.
Definitely. I mean, not only does Mil get locked away in that coffin, and we know that it was not in Katrina's plan, so she might not necessarily be able to resurrect him again like she did last time, but we also see that his corpse is carried away by Cuerno, and then we get this big, like, oh shit, Delgado is cowering to this Lord character, and it happens that the Lord character wears a black glove and like cigars. So
exactly, and I love too that that's our closing cinematic because Lucha Underground is just thinking, oh wait, you need to catch your breath after that Cuerno review. Yeah, too bad because now this happened. They just do not let up, and I love it. Once their foot is on the gas, they are committed. And I like commitment to narratives and performers in my wrestling, and to me, Lucha Underground does it best. Great stuff.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I guess that about wraps things up for Lucha Rewatch Season 2, Episode 8. So, John, do you have any final thoughts that you want to get out there before we close out tonight?
No, bro. I had so much fun doing this with you, as always. Great live chat this week.
Very active, although admittedly it has been a little bit on the pervy side for the last 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, that's kind of become a trend, and I don't really know what we're going to do, so I think I'll just let it happen. But yeah, regardless, you guys are fantastic. Thank you all for joining us. If you haven't already, please leave a like. And yeah, I don't think we have anything on tap until tomorrow with Payback preview and predictions. Should be interesting. But yeah, I'm going to give the reins over to you, partner, so you can take us home.
Yeah, just to let everyone know, this is our last week of not covering NXT until the next takeover. So NXT will not be tonight, but we will be back reviewing NXT as of next week. Today, we had our Lucha Rewatch episode 8. We are going to have a grand total of 13 episodes of Lucha Rewatch this season. So we're going to have 9 next week, then 10, 11, 12. And then on Wednesday, May 31st, we will have a Lucha Rewatch. But then we're also going to have a little bit of a special video leading up to the debut of Lucha, or not the debut, the return of Lucha Underground Season 3, where at some point in between going off the air for Lucha Rewatch and coming back for Lucha live reactions, we are going to do a little bit of a revisit of the Lucha Underground Season 3 trailer to talk about everything that we've already seen and everything that we have yet to see that was in the trailer for Season 3. How does that sound, John?
That sounds amazing to me, partner. That's why we are the definitive Lucha Underground channel. And yeah, partner, I'll let you continue taking us home.
All right, guys, make sure to check out the description for links to all of our Lucha Underground playlists prior to Season 3. Season 1 reviews, Season 1 rewatch, Season 2 reviews, Season 2 live reactions, and now, of course, the ongoing Season 2 rewatch that you're listening to right now. That is 8 of 13 episodes in. Support TWitWoW on Patreon or Teespring. Follow us both on Twitter, like our Facebook, and check out the subreddit if you're interested in that kind of thing. And we will see you all tomorrow at, I believe, 8 p.m. for our WWE Payback preview and predictions. Spoiler alert, I don't even think we're going to go over a half hour because the show looks terrible, and I don't think we'd really care about anything. And quite frankly, Raw has gotten to the point that it's not even worth ranting about it anymore. So we hope that you're all looking forward to that. We know that we're looking forward to just tearing into everything awful about Monday Night Raw nowadays. And then, of course, Friday is Q&A, Sunday live reactions, and then Tuesday we're back to the grind as usual with the return of NXT reviews coming next Wednesday as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed Lucha Rewatch Season 2, Episode 8. We know that we enjoyed being able to watch and talk about these shows all over again. It's so much fun. And, of course, we will see you all tomorrow for our preview predictions for Backlash. For Payback, not Backlash. I just wanted to make sure that I got that correct. For Payback. So we'll see you guys then, and make sure you stay tuned.